I often wonder how many people are sitting in their cubicle, belt on their dress outfit, one notch too tight, itchy collar, sitting on their computer in their little office, working on things for work while they have a little window up on the side playing the WSOP or one of the recent WPT events, dreaming of what it would be like to quit their job and just have the freedom to play poker full time. I know it's a dream that many people have. But today I want to make the case for why the poker dream might actually be having rec poker status and that the full-time poker dream isn't what you think it is. My name is Rob Gardner. I'm a 20+ year poker professional and I love teaching and coaching people how to play the game of poker. And my hope is that by the end of this video, you will have a very clear picture of what the poker dream is and what the poker dream isn't, so you can make the most educated decision for your future. So let me take you back all the way to the late 2000s, well before Black Friday. I had been playing poker online and had started becoming more and more profitable playing Texas Hold'em. And I made the decision to quit my restaurant management job to go full-time into poker for the very first time. Now, being way ahead in my years and mature and well experienced in what I was doing, I naturally came up with this plan to play steps on party poker. And essentially what I did is I took my bankroll, which was $600. Yes, $600. And I played 100 steps at the $6 level. And then however many got to step 2, I played those, and then step 3s and step 4s all the way up to the last step. The last step was a $400 buy-in that had 10 players and paid 5 spots. 2K to first, 1K to second, 500 to third, 300 to fourth, 200 to fifth. And I would play all these step 1s all the way down to however many step 6s I had. And then I would play all those step 6s, and whatever I cashed for was my new bankroll. And then I would rinse and repeat. I would be lying if I told you there were multiple times where I got down to my very last step 6. Now, fortunately, this was late 2000s, so poker was really soft back then. If you 3-bet, nobody called you without aces. You could raise and steal the blinds a ridiculously high percentage of time, especially on the bubbles of these tournaments. So the variance wasn't near as bad as it would have been if this format existed today. But needless to say, I was an absolute moron for having a plan that bad for being a full-time poker player. Now, obviously, I've learned over the years and I have a much better strategy for how I manage finances, both in and outside of poker. But I'm well aware that there are many people out there that dream of being in a position to play poker full-time for a living. It is their favorite game. It is their favorite pastime. It is their favorite hobby. And they would love nothing more than to be able to play it on a very regular basis as their primary source of income. Now, I'm not here to tell you that being a full-time poker pro is a mistake. I'm just here to tell you that being a full-time poker pro is not for everyone, and it might not be the way you're envisioning it in your head. So let's clear up 3 things about being a full-time poker pro. Number 1, the money probably isn't as good as you think it is. Now, obviously, money is relative. For some people, making $50,000, $60,000 a year would be a nice upgrade over their job. For others, it wouldn't even begin to provide for their kids and their family. So when you talk about a topic like, can I make a good living playing poker? That's really going to depend on what you define a good living as and what kind of means you need to live a comfortable lifestyle. But I've definitely talked to students in the past that thought they could just print money playing poker full time if they could just get to that point, and there were just infinite amounts of money to be made. Now, sure, there are people making a lot of money in this game, but as you go up the pyramid and you get higher and higher into profit tiers, the number of people that make that kind of money go down dramatically. Take online poker, for example. Online poker is great. What's better than the American dream of making money in your underwear in front of your computer? Don't worry, I have pants on. Playing poker for a living, right? You don't have to get dressed and be all fancy and do your hair. You can just sit down, be comfortable, and play the game you love and make lots of money. Well, online poker is pretty capped. It's going to be really tough to find very many people who are making more than, say, $90,000 to $100,000 a year without putting in absolutely insane value, 60, 70, 80, 90 hours a week, playing absolutely insane value in terms of the number of tables they're playing 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 tables at a time. And while you might be thinking, oh yeah, 10, 12 tables at a time, no problem. You're not factoring the mental fatigue that happens when you do that for 8, 9, 10, 11 hours a day, 5, 6, 7 days a week. It can really take a toll. See, the problem is in online poker, as you move up in stakes, the ROI gets thinner and thinner. Now, this is somewhat true for live, but it really becomes problematic online. While you can find lots of winning players making 30, 40, 50, 60% ROIs in the low to mid stakes, 10, 20, $30 buy-in tournaments, as you start moving up to 55s, 109s, 215s, the ROI starts to curve off really dramatically, and the vast majority of players that can win at those levels are only curving out at an ROI of around 10 to 20%. It means they're making about the same as they were in the mid stakes in these high stakes fields that are much more reg heavy and lead to higher variance. So it's not like you can just take what you're doing at the $10 to $30 level, get a little bit better, bump up to the 55s, 109s, and 215s, and now exponentially increase your profit. So much so that there are lots of really good poker players who actually never leave the mid stakes and stay and focus on the mid stakes because they can make more consistent profit there than they can at the high stakes, even though they can beat the high stakes. Now, not everybody has access to live poker, but for those that do, that is another option. And the nice advantage of live poker is that as you move up in stakes, the fields are a lot softer compared to online. For example, a $400 live poker tournament really plays like an $11 online poker tournament. You get a lot more money in a field that's a lot softer. But now it comes with different challenges. For example, you can't really play 8 tables of live poker at a time. This causes variance to be a massive problem, as it can take you months, if not years, to truly realize your equity in live fields. Oftentimes, live poker means traveling to the best destinations. Even if you're a cash game player, sometimes the best cash games mean going to a place like Texas or to Florida or to Vegas at certain times of the year. And it involves you being in more than one place throughout the course of the year to maximize your income. Now, if you're single with no close family, no relatives, no pets to take care of, this is no big deal. And it can be a really cool lifestyle to be able to travel the country and visit different places and play poker for a living. But for the average person, this is a huge hiccup that gets in the way of their day-to-day responsibilities. And yes, if you happen to be a cash game player specifically that has access to ample cash games in your local area and you can beat them at a consistent rate, then that's a really good and beneficial situation to be in. But the vast majority of poker fans out there are not in a situation like that. The second challenge is that the fun stops when you start having to do something instead of wanting to do something. When you only get to play poker a couple times a week, it's something you look forward to. You're excited for it. You think about it. You get into the session, you're having a blast, and then the session ends too soon, and then you have to wait for a little while before you get to play again, which keeps that excitement level up. But once you have to play to pay the bills and you have to put in that 40, 50, 60 hours a week, the excitement of playing goes down. This is just human nature. It's not just true for poker. It's true for any hobby or activity that you do for fun and convert to something you have to do for a living. This is one of the hard truths I've had to see play out in my life and in some of my friends' lives, where poker was a game that they loved so much and they had such a passion for. And going into the full-time realm actually ruined poker for them because it gave them such a disdain for playing that this love and excitement and passion and zeal they had for the game died. And they were left with this game that they were burned out and hated playing because of how much pressure came with having to play full time and having to put the hours in even when they didn't feel like it. Where when you're a recreational player, if you just don't feel like playing poker for a night, you just take that night off. You don't have that luxury as a full-time poker player. Third, poker hits different when you have to do it for money. Take studying, for example. When you're a recreational poker player, all studying is setting aside time to learn the game and play it a little bit better. But when you play poker for a living, studying now is an expensive investment because every hour you spend studying is an hour you're not spending playing and generating revenue towards your bills. Now, obviously, we can sit here and have the grandiose idea that, you know, studying is really valuable and it helps your game and it improves your win rate. And of course, we should all do it 5 to 10 hours a week. But in reality, when you've bricked 2 sessions in a row and your bankroll is $800 less than it was on Monday, The idea of sitting in a study session and watching a video or going to a study group and taking a couple hours out of your day to go and get better at the game when you could be grinding and you already have this hole you've dug is really, really hard to do mentally. And it adds even a more pressure and stress to your situation. Now, obviously the best pros handle this and they handle it with class and they know how to make the plus EV decisions and they put themselves into those study times, understanding that they're more valuable than grinding. But these are pressures and emotions that nobody is thinking about or picturing or visualizing when they're sitting in their cubicle dreaming about the day where they can play poker full time. The aforementioned downswings, those hit you way, way harder. I can't tell you how many times I've had this exact thought. I get up early in the morning, have breakfast, I get a workout, I sit down at the table, and I grind for 10 hours. On a day where I was kind of not feeling it, maybe I should take the day off. No, I need to get some money made. And I sit down and I push through and I get to the end of those 10 hours and I realize if I had just taken the day off, I would have an extra $400 in my bankroll. But instead, I spent that 10 hours grinding and pushing through, and now I have $400 less than I did when I started the day. That is a demoralizing and terrible way to think about the game, but it's again human nature. These downswings hit you so hard when if you were just a recreational player with a budget and you had a set amount of money that you could lose each month or use to win more money, this wouldn't be a pressure that was on your plate. You'd have a bad losing day, you would chalk it up to variance, you'd move on and you'd look forward to the next opportunity. These dynamics can have major, major impacts on how you play the game. One of the biggest leaks I see in winning players that are playing at low and mid stakes is they start to go on a downswing and they start playing not to lose instead of playing to win. They start folding way too often trying to get ladders because an extra 30 bucks, an extra 40 bucks, an extra 100 bucks. That means a lot at the end of the day and it helps their bankroll, and they start sacrificing the opportunity to win 1,500, 2K, 3,000 to secure another 50, 100, 200 because every penny counts. Or again, if you're a recreational player and you didn't have those budget constrictions and you didn't have these bills due, you could just play your best poker. But this leak comes in so frequently because we're so hardwired to want to make money that we see the for sure money and we go after that instead of chasing what will actually make us the most money in the long run, which is playing for the win. These types of leaks are leaks you've never probably experienced in the casual recreational space, but once you start playing for a living and your bills matter, they hit you, or they hit you a lot harder than you've ever experienced before, because now you're playing for rent money. Now, obviously there are above reproach ways to tackle having a full-time poker career, having 3 to 6 months of savings stored up so that there's less pressure on you, and having a healthy mental game and mindset training that you pair with your poker so you don't let these factors affect you externally. And there's all kinds of things you can do to overcome these challenges. So I don't bring these challenges up to completely deter you and say that being a poker pro is the worst thing in the world and it's impossible and don't ever try it. But I do want to paint the picture that it is not all sunshine and roses. It is not all just getting up and playing the game you love every day, living the dream. They say do something you love and you'll never work a day in your life. That is not true. I'm sorry. Yes, poker is fun. It's exhilarating. It's a great game. It is an amazing way to make a living. But I guarantee you there's not a poker pro out there you can talk to who literally says they've never worked a day in their life. Absolutely not. They will tell you they have been through some of the biggest emotional swings of their entire lives. They've had amazing, amazing highs that they wouldn't trade for anything in the world, which is why they do it. But they've had some lows that they would be happy to forget. And they've had to work and scratch and claw for every step of the journey that they've taken. So if after hearing all this, this is something you still really want, awesome. Go after it with everything you have and come up with a really, really good plan to help you be successful facing some of these things I've talked about. But if this made you squeamish at all, consider maybe a different option. Because if you can find a way to provide for yourself, whatever that may be, through a job, through a business that you start, through a side hustle, whatever it takes to generate the revenue you need to survive, then you get the best of both worlds. Just because you're a recreational player doesn't mean you aren't a successful poker player. It doesn't mean you can't be a winning poker player. It doesn't mean you can't have a poker career. It doesn't mean that you can't be one of the best players in the world. All it means is that the revenue you generate from poker doesn't have to be the revenue you need to survive. And to me, that is the optimal place to be to play the best poker you are capable of playing. So I want to hear from you. Drop a line in the comments. Tell us what your poker dream looks like. Do you want to be a full-time pro? Do you want to find a side hustle that can pay your bills so you can play poker for fun and money too? What are your fears? What are your excitements? Drop them all in the comments below. Make sure you hit that like button and click the bell down below. Hit the subscribe button so you can get notifications when our videos come out every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday right here on this channel. We're happy to talk poker. We're happy to talk life. We're happy to give you any tips we can to help you love and enjoy this game more. That's it for me. We will see you guys in the next video.